We're live again. What's going on, everybody? Again, welcome back to the channel, Chino Comics and More, and we're doing episode 2 of Talking Shop at the Shop. But you know what? We're not at the shop today. Weather's pretty bad here in Houston, so we're going to be chilling right here at Chino's house. But for the most part, guys, what we're going to talk about today, guys, we have a few topics in mind. Let me just make sure that we are live before we keep going with this. Yeah, it looks like we're live.
Yeah, let me get on there too, man. And see, you guys catch that notification soon.
Yeah, and again, make sure your notifications are on. So last week we talked a little bit about just a little bit of spec talk and stuff like that. What's going on, Christian? We talked a little about that. We talked about, kind of our perspective on just overall, collecting and stuff like that, and we have a few different opinions today. We want to talk a little bit about variants, because right now, modern books, it's really what we're into right now, because, we own the shop and so that. So we see a lot of modern books. So we started asking ourselves a question, how do we feel about variant comics and just modern books in general, because there's really maybe a lot of different sides to this whole story. But for the most part, some people either love modern books, or some people are just in the old Silver Age, Bronze Age, Copper Age, even Golden Age. Some people are just hardcore with that. So we have a different perspective since we own the shop. So yeah, we got about 5 people in here. So yeah,
it shows 8 on here on the thing. So
it should
as
load up.
You guys are coming in, man, make sure that you guys raise your hand, type something for roll call.
Roll call. So and this is more like an open dialogue. We might have someone else join us in a bit. And
yeah, we're kind of waiting on another individual. I think he's running a little late because we wanted kind of to run this next topic with him. But I guess we can just kind of wait. What's up, Alberto?
What we can talk about, we can kind of talk about variants and stuff like that. So we will have maybe someone joining us, and it's going to pertain kind of to like the whole discussion of Silver Age and stuff like that.
All right, second in.
Yeah, raise your hands, guys. So how do we feel about variant comics? Because really in reality, you see a lot of 1 in 10s, 1 in 20s, 1 in 25s, 1 in 100s, 1 in 500s, stuff like that. And then for the most part, Marvel will do cover A, which can be your main cover. Then you have a cover B, C, D, and so on. Some books, like some new launches will have 7 different variants. So it's kind of hard to pick and choose which one you want to kind of invest in. My perspective always has been try to pick up the cover A. Because there's going to be mostly the streamlined, the more mainline cover. But with that being said, it's probably going to be the higher print one too, the cover A. And print count does matter because a lot of these books get hot, and second and third prints and so on, which is a whole different topic. That usually gets hot.
Say he hates racial variants.
And the racial variants and stuff like that. So and it kind of goes into the print count. So you start looking at it, there's some covers that go for more money than just cover A's, with the whole speculation and with the books getting hot and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess we are kind of partial to the way things operate from Marvel. Really, it's more Marvel than DC as far as the variants go. But I understand from a collector perspective and how collectors think, and they want the most scarce or the less printed. So when they do that, a lot of people view that, and I know it seems like it's a money grab, which it is, but for collectors, when you have such a high print run, when you start getting those racial variants, those are less printed runs, and they're more rare. So when it comes to that, from a collector perspective, they're trying to cater to the collectors. They're trying to cater to the everyday readers,
Yeah, and speaking of that, so how does that break down? What does a 1 in 10, what does a 1 in 25 mean? So what that means, guys, is that's an incentive variant for the actual shop itself. So 1 in 10 means you had to order 10 copies in whatever order may be of the regular covers to get one out of that 1 in 10 variant.
I'm gonna highlight this. And Alberto, he's a customer of ours, man. So he put something on here. I like store exclusive cover because I don't see the demand for them in resale as they make out.
And that's a whole different topic too, guys. Whenever you have a store exclusive, that's a whole different topic. We won't touch too much on that because we have a little bit of knowledge of that, but we haven't really kind of
we don't have a lot of information on that simply because obviously we haven't got into that position. I see other
there's just other shops that just have their own random.
Yeah, like Midtown Comics and stuff like that. So Midtown, Torpedo, and all that. I guess it, not to touch base on that too much, but I guess it give artists a little bit more work when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, and again, let's quick shout out to all the guys that jumped in. Louis 13, Christian's in here, Carlito's in here, Newbie's up in here too, man. So again,
we can do a little bit Q&A right now before we get more people in here, man, and then we'll get to kind of like some of the books.
Yeah, I want to show some books,
and then we can really dive into the topic, and then you guys can ask questions, participate, and hopefully, Mr. Unknown is supposed to join us, so hopefully he can get back home and get going with us on here.
I think he sent you an email already or a text. His email. Keep it real, yeah, man. Sometimes you do got to keep it real.
Okay, he's ready. All right, okay, guys. So hang tight real quick. Let me get Mr. Unknown in here.
Go ahead and type it. You want me to type it?
Yeah. J-A-Y.
Don't say out loud. All right, guys. Just send this email real quick. All right, that is sent, and then we're back. All right, so let me go back to the chat. So, I think there's some stuff going on in here in the chat. So right now we're gonna wait for Mr. Unknown Comics to join us, and then we'll be able to have open dialogue with another individual. And the reason we call this Worlds Collide is because it's not just us. With our perspective, we'll have different individuals here on Saturdays and stuff like that.
Yeah,
to give their opinions.
I think the way we kind of want to approach this is everyone on YouTube or everyone individually doing content or has some kind of presence, they create their own little world. So when they come here, man, we want to kind of put that as worlds collide. Our world is colliding with their world and their perspectives and their thoughts. And sometimes they might align and sometimes they might be different.
Yeah. Where were you on? You're on Chrome?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so we're just waiting for Mr. Unknown, guys. Just hang tight. We can some questions on there. Let me get back on.
Yeah, let me see if there's anything in the chat.
And these live shows are gonna be a little choppy in the beginning, man. But once we get the format, the timing down, and all that, they'll be quick to follow, man. So
and hopefully you guys are all doing well wherever you're at, staying safe, stuff like that. It looks like we're gonna have some heavy rain coming in.
So yeah, I'll agree with Alberto. He said, I like how DC does. DC is probably the best one as far as not.
Well, they're doing incentive variants too, though. They're doing incentive variants too. So in reality, they have a 1 in 25 and stuff like that. So, what's going on, Jaguar? They're starting to do 1 in 25 variants, and they're seeing that there's a demand for that because, like we talked about, first a lot of spec collectors, they're going to want those more lower print covers and stuff like that. Sometimes Marvel, when they do 8 covers, it is tricky to pick one up. Pick one out of the 8. Sometimes people pick up 8 covers, and that's when it gets kind of messy because you're spending a lot more than you probably want to spend, to tell the truth.
And from a store perspective, we can probably give you the most honest kind of answer to that, man. It's hard for us as a store too to decide what we need to pick up because they do kind of hit the stores with a lot of material, and they make a lot of stores kind of dig themselves a hole as far as trying to pick up every cover for every different customer and kind of guesstimating who's going to like what, who's not going to like this and stuff like that. So it does cause a little bit of confusion to I would say the smaller shops or medium-sized shops that end up with just a whole bunch of inventory, man.
Yeah, and that's a bad part about it. You start ordering all these covers because you think you're going to have a winner, and then those covers don't pan out, and then you're stuck with like you said, a lot of inventory, man. And sometimes that inventory, is going to sit there for a very long time, and that's the stuff you find in the back issues.
And then we can't do letters anymore, man. So we can't even move that product, man.
Yeah. What's going on, Ruben? So we are, for some of you guys that just jumped in, we are waiting for Mr. Unknown Comics to jump in. That way you can join us here and we can have some dialogue. Again, this is going to be more like for now, it's going to be a Saturday thing. If we need to, we'll keep readjusting and figure out one solid time that might work for everybody.
Yeah, we need to bring back the letters, man.
No letters.
The letters were great, man. They were.
There he goes. And let me add him to the stream. All right.
What is going on? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, brother.
All right.
All right, you can hear him so you can introduce himself to the channel, because some people, obviously we're
gonna jump off real quick and we're gonna give the spotlight to Mr. Unknown Comics. That way you guys can get a feel for him and get to know him.
Hello, everybody. Mr. Unknown Comics guy. Yeah, your favorite Unknown Comics guy. Just on here with Chino. talking about what kind of big books to get, in your collection, and basically how you can, how you could, and maybe how you should go about getting them. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of all over the place with my collection. I go after just about everything, but there is a little bit of method to my madness, because over the long run, there's sort of an end game where you want to have the big comic books, the big grails and everything in your collection. And I guess that's what we're here to talk about, kind of some opinions on that, on how to go about getting those big comic books in your collection and things like that.
That is correct. Yeah. So we want to kind of give an idea how we go about getting some of these bigger books. We also kind of want to talk a little bit about, just modern books, the perspective on modern books and variants, just some quick dialogue. It doesn't have to go too long, but, speaking of Mr. Unknown, he does his own YouTube channel. He has his own content. So you guys should subscribe to him because he does, different stuff than we do, of course, because we all have different perspectives. And aside from that, I know he's been in auctions and stuff like that. So he's usually throwing out some pretty damn good books too, man. So there is a method to this madness. And I guess you guys kind of worked on something behind the scenes, which is Mr. Unknown Comics and Chino himself.
Yeah.
You guys might want to talk about that.
So basically, obviously, we're all trying to acquire books, man. And last week we had a big book that went out, and I had already kind of talked to him about another book that I was chasing that he had. So it was a win-win situation. I got a book from him, and I was able to buy a book from him, and he was able to come back and give us back to business in retrospect and buy a big book from us last week. I don't want to spoil too much because some of you guys probably didn't watch that, but I don't know. Are you gonna do an unboxing here, Mr. Unknown, or you already have it ready to go?
Well, I've already got it unboxed. Actually, I could not wait.
Okay, I told him the same thing, man. Mine came in and
on his birthday, so it worked out.
It worked out.
Yeah, that was really cool.
So I guess I'll let you kind of show off the book, and then you talk about it. I guess what if it was a book that you were chasing or a book that you needed to kind of complete something, and give these guys a little bit of
a perspective on your method to your madness.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, I go after just about anything. I mean, whatever strikes my fancy. That's just how I collect. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I eventually want to have this comic book. Like say for instance, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1.
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to be able to get that first print. Even though I'd love to have it, who wouldn't?
Yes.
But the second print's still in the affordable range. You can still get one of those. And so it's kind of like, for me, it's kind of, like I said, there's a push and a pull because, sometimes it's like, you gotta be disciplined enough to save that, the money and everything to build up, to get that comic book that you want, that big one.
Yeah.
Or if you got the funds, you kind of got to strike while the iron's hot. I mean, if something's falling in my lap, I'm not gonna look the gift horse in the mouth, so to speak. If I can get it, I'm gonna go ahead and get it.
Yeah.
And that being said, that's kind of what happened with the comic book that I got from you guys the other night on the auction. And this isn't really to complete a collection. I mean, although I am trying to work on this run, there's just a lot of comic books, of course, that go in this title here, and that's the Avengers. I got the Avengers #1.
You want to bring it? There's a little bit of a glare. There you go. That is
guys. And this is just the comic book that like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 is a comic book that's been on my grail list for the longest time. Well, ever since I'm a kid, I can remember wanting this comic book. And sure, you can do the. I mean, there's no wrong way. There's really no wrong way. You could go shopping on eBay. You can go to your conventions, your Instagrams, your Facebooks, or wherever your offer up or whatever like that, and just keep hunting for the book and hunting. But since all this comic book auction stuff started a while back, it's just been more fun to buy from the comic book community. You're helping keeping the community alive by doing that, by supporting each other, buying each other's comic books and everything like that. And I'm all for that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of how we explain our auction to the gentleman. Obviously, when we started doing this, is opened up the opportunity to buy more books, bring out more books that they're desire or looking for, and it allows us to use the platform to help them collect books without having to go. Cons are great, but I mean, there has to be a big markup on that, especially if you're doing like a bigger con. So some of the books are going to be a little bit more expensive. You can get some good deals at cons because we've made really good deals out there, but you do got to spend a lot of money. Comic book shops, and some of them can work with you, some of them will not work with you. And eBay, I'm not a big fan of eBay no more, simply because there's just too many fees involved now. Back then,
not only the fees, it's just so tough to work with people on eBay. It's just really slow. You gotta message the guy or whoever. You gotta wait for them to reply. They're not always quick about replying. Mm-hmm. And then you get the biggest gripe, of course, is the ones that have the best offer thing.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people cuss that up and down. The best offer, they got $100 thing on there, and that's their best offer that they want, $100.
Exactly.
And so it's just a really big turnoff, I think, for a lot of comic book collectors to even think of going the way of eBay, just because there's so much hassle involved in it. And then when you got a community and you're seeing the comic book live, you can zoom in on it, and you can work deals behind the scenes, or somebody didn't buy the comic book during the auction, you can work deals behind the scenes. It's all kinds of stuff. And the thing, it kind of polices itself, because everybody sees everybody's auctions and is aware of everybody's auction, and you don't want to have a bad reputation built in that regard.
Yeah, and what this does also too, guys, is it introduces other collectors to other collectors, because in reality, we probably would never have met Mr. Unknown Comics, but because of this platform, we're able to meet him, we're able to do a transaction, we're able to do we're able to see what kind of books he has, which opens up other avenues like Instagram and all that good stuff. But the cool thing about this is that you see so much on the YouTube, and we start opening dialogue and stuff like that, that you kind of get to know each other, and it makes it easier to make these kind of deals, because to be able to send a book of that magnitude over the mail, or even for him to send a payment like that to us, and vice versa for the book that we picked up from him, it takes a lot of trust. So as you said, Mr. Unknown, we're doing these auctions, and you're getting a feel for the people and stuff like that, and you're kind of seeing, what kind of individual you're dealing with. On eBay, you just don't know, and I've gotten screwed on eBay. I think for the most part, all of us have.
At least once. Everybody's been there once. Yeah.
Well, I took a big loss when I was we used to buy iPhones early on, and I just took a big hit on an iPhone because we would get them when they first come out and kind of do the whole waiting in lines thing, and somebody just returned a broken iPhone to me. They're wording something, and eBay it's a buyer protector, so
right.
I tried to fight it, and I got stuck with like almost $1,000 bill, man. So
yeah, that's really tough. I mean, I had one time where I sold something and I actually won the dispute. I couldn't believe it, but I mean, that was a one. I should have played the lottery that day, because that's a 1 in a million shot. Yeah, eBay definitely does favor the buyers more than the sellers on that.
Exactly. So And through meeting, a lot of these individuals through YouTube, we follow their Instagram, and we saw that, Mr. Unknown Comics had a pretty nice book that we're always trying to acquire. We're always trying to load up on. And, Chino has said it before.
I'm surprised no one snagged it. Like, to be quite honest with you, and I can understand, because, I mean, it's
a pricey book.
It's a pricey book, but I think it was a price very, very reasonable for what they sell for, voiding fees and all that. So I guess we can show you guys kind of what we picked up in return from Mr. Unknown. And some of you guys probably caught this and talked to him on his IG, man. But, this is a book that we're always looking to try to pick up.
Yeah, so we're going to go full screen for a quick minute, and then That way we can show you guys what we picked up. So again, this is a big grail. It's a book that we talked about we've been talking about this book for a very long time, and it's a massive book in the case that for us, we're always trying to complete 2 separate individual runs of certain books or certain characters, and these are some characters that we're really behind on. We back up 100%, and it's going to be an X-Men #1 at a 3.5. Beautiful book, very high. I mean, for us, it's a damn nice high grade for us because we're not looking for 7.0s, 10, 9.8s and stuff like that because it gets pricey pretty quick. But this book is damn nice, and we saw it on his Instagram, and
I hit him up about it like literally a few weeks ago, Mr. No. I hit him up on that book, and again,
and he had offered it on. I mean, he put on his Instagram like, "Hey, I'm trying to unload this book."
I think you talked about it in one of your auctions too, right, Mr. No?
Yeah, I was putting it up all over the place, and got a lot of people to turn it down and everything, which I must say, I can understand. People are looking for what they want. They want to get what they want. I get that, but still on the flip side, there is the other side of the coin where you're going, man. I mean, I know it's a pricey book and everything, but as far as people that might be able to pull the trigger on it, it was just kind of a surprise because I guess I get. It just seemed like maybe it was too low of a grade almost. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think so, man. I think.
Well, I mean, me either. I mean, I'm like, man, talk about hard to find, hard books to come by, hard comic books to come by, and that are affordable,
Yeah.
And that's just that is like a grail. I mean, that is the true definition of a grail comic book, X-Men #1, and I mean, that's like I'm saying, if something like that falls in your lap and you have the funds, it's almost silly to turn it down if it's something. I mean, I guess I'm putting all kinds of, well, to use the term caveats.
No,
that's an old joke. I don't know if you guys were.
No,
but to put that in perspective where it's like, I mean, I know. Granted, it'd be nice to have a really nice copy of that, but you're talking, tens of thousands of dollars at that point, for something like that, and even, something like this, not as big a book as the X-Men, and it's a 3.0, very, very good, but good, very good, and it's definitely seen some time. Let's just say that,
They're old books. They're old books.
And
it's an old book. Exactly. It's
and going back to these Silver Age books, like these grails, really in reality, I think, it goes back to what you can afford. But, I always tell people, I'm like, if you can get yourself a 0.5, 1.0, just to have the entry level book, man, you want to get that book. When you start getting into the 4.0, even the 3.5, 5.0 range, you're talking about a lot of money. You can potentially buy 2 grails for the amount of money you're buying on a better grade. So it really comes down to trying to get these entry level lower grades to just kind of satisfy the want, because once you have it, it's not about leveling up or showing off, because like I tell Manny all the time, we tell people all the time, we tell Paul this all the time, like, you can never outdo another person. If you try to chase kind of that method when you're trying to compete with other individuals, that is a dumb way of trying to collect, and people are gonna, some people are gonna be down talk and say, well, that's a low grade, man. Why don't you get a 2.0 or 3.0? But they don't understand the situation behind how expensive these books are, and that's why we tell people, and going back to how you can acquire these books, and Mr. Known and me had this conversation, is if you have these type of books on your radar, you may just need to start cutting back on other things, man, because these books are only going to get more expensive as they're being brought out in the Marvel universe. they're going to get to a point where right now, for what they're going for, you're not going to catch these entry-level books at that price. So
it's about budgeting. You have to set up a budget too. You have to kind of put your some money to the side, and in regards to, like the auctions or even just Instagram, all those platforms that we can use, that's why, a lot of us double up, triple up on books. Sometimes we buy, 4 or 5 copies of a book because, when time comes, you can part ways with books that you have multiples of. It's hard to always part ways of just your one nice copy. So sometimes that's a good way to help you fund to be able to buy some of these bigger books. Sometimes, again, you might have to unload a book that you're not in love with that's, pretty valuable, but that will help you get closer to maybe your grail. Like we just talked about, like a Ninja Turtles #1, if that's your ultimate grail, there has to be some kind of sacrifice. And from the perspective of ours, we love these older books, the Silver Age books more than anything. And then we do like bronze, copper age and stuff like that. But silver's proven, silver, gold, they're proven. Like time, they withstood everything that could come at them, and all they do is for the most part become, they do become more valuable.
Yeah, that's all they become is more valuable. The Grail books, I mean, like exactly like you said, they've stood the test of time.
Yeah.
And they've only gotten more valuable as time has gone by. And so, following that trajectory, it's just the sky. It's almost like the sky is the limit. And I've noticed this hobby just in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, it is really, really taken off. I mean, I thought it was taken off back then in 2015, but it has really taken off. And comic books that you could probably get like $4 or $5, $10, $15, $20 only that long ago, or like now $50 to $100, $200 comic books now. So I mean, this is kind of like anything else where the price of something goes up and then it never comes back down. That's kind of the way I feel about the comic books right now. Is they're just going up and up and up and up and up, and I mean even your less valuable books. I mean, $1, $2, $5, by now, I mean, it's everything is just going up and it's not coming back down. So these books like Avengers 1 and X-Men 1 and Fantastic Four 1. I mean, and now's the time to get them, if you can, before it gets any worse, so to speak, before they just get out of your reach, and then you see them in museums and stuff like that, because those are the only folks that can afford them.
Yeah, the thing about again, like when people have asked us, I know we have an Instagram page, and it may seem like we are all over the place. We do acquire new books just because we do find good deals, man, and we don't pass up on them. But I've told people this numerous times, and Manny made a reference to this the other day, where the Ultimate Fallout, that he passed up on for the variant, the 1 in 25. It's selling for like 9,000, 10,000.
Well, they have it listed for like 9,000. I think the last one sold for like $4,000 and some change, $5,000. It's selling for quite a bit of money. So, which that kind of can lead us to our next topic, because I know after this we're gonna do an auction and stuff like that. So the next topic is, we are gonna move on to we can talk a little about modern books, and we were talking earlier about variants. How do you feel about variants, Mr. Unknown Comics? Like, are you a fan of variants? Are you a fan of like the 1 in 10s, 1 in 25s, and stuff like that, or do you not even care at all?
I care a little bit. Variance is definitely something. Is definitely an acquired taste. It's just because it's just a cover you're buying. You're not buying the story or anything like that. When you're talking strictly variants, and not talking about like first appearances and stuff like that. You're talking strictly just the cover because it's a variant cover.
Well, we could talk about like first appearances. I have some incentive variants here that I want to show off and kind of reference like what type of incentive variants or like what kind of variants I really try to buy into. But like the regular variants, when they have like 7 variants, it's difficult to pick a good one because one that might get hot. But to me, my perspective is if I'm going to buy incentive variants, I either got to really love it or it has to be a first appearance. I'm a big fan of first appearances.
So the one thing
you got to really love the one that you're going after, or you really got to be quick about getting it off your hands, because that's the only other reason you're getting it is for the value of it to flip it. I would imagine. I mean, if you don't really love it,
Yeah.
Because those things will burn up quickly, very quickly. You got to get rid of those very fast.
Yeah. And from a store perspective, we have not chased a lot of these. We have talked about eventually getting to a point where we have a like a $40 box that we're trying to kind of continuously promote. Eventually getting those variants in those boxes. But if you are going to pick up these books, some people, again, I always tell people collect how you want to collect. I can't tell you collect like me, collect like Manny, collect like Punch or Alberto. Everyone has to collect kind of how they want to collect. The only thing we can do is give them our opinions on it. But the one thing I do tell people is if you are going to chase these modern grails, these incentive variants, these variants, first appearances, just get them when they come out. Opposed to them being like $100 right off the bat.
Well, look, Jaguar kind of said, look, most are parking lot flips unless it's a key. And speaking of keys, so look, I do have some incentive variants, and this is the way I like to kind of buy my incentive variants. So, and again, this might become paperweight, but to me, I love the story to begin with, so I'm not going to really miss out on anything. And I'm buying into characters that I like. So, for instance, I have Thor #4, like the 1 in 25 variant, So I picked that up. I'm digging the cover. I'm digging the storyline. So in reality, if this doesn't become anything, and I didn't pay too much for this cover, I bought it, when it first came out, because I like the storyline and so on. And it has gone up, it's gone down and stuff like that. So if this becomes nothing, if I'm buying into something that I do love and like, typically I don't have any buyer's remorse.
Yeah, no loss there.
No loss there. And then I also bought the 1 in 25, and again, beautiful cover. To me, this is a beautiful cover. The 1 in 25 of Thor #5. It's the first appearance of what is it, Black Winter, something like that. So again, another cover that I like. I'm big into Donny Cates right now. I'm digging what he's liking with the whole Thor run, with the Venom run and stuff like that.
But these are books. When we were having New Comic Book Day, we were already talking about Donny Cates. We were already talking about. We have became such big fans of his Guardians of the Galaxy, Silver Surfer, Black, and a lot of the stuff that he was doing. That we coming back into the hobby when we owned the store, began to just start reading everything that he was doing, kind of like Hickman with the X-Men run. So, when you start kind of following the writers or an artist that you like a lot of people like
the Peaceful Moko. A lot of people are jumping on Peaceful Moko right now.
Scotty Young. The Scotty Young. They love those.
Yeah, I love Scotty Young.
So, I mean, some people just buy that. They're not buying it really for the story. Sometimes they're just buying because of the covers.
There is hype buy and stuff like that. There's the hype behind it does sell a lot of books and stuff like that. But that's why I said I try to buy incentive variants that kind of pertain to a first appearance and stuff like that. I have another big one here that's caught fire. When I bought it because again I'm digging the storyline and I figured, well, this is the first appearance of a villain.
But he's a Spider-Man guy. He's been high on Spider-Man for a long time.
And it's gonna be Venom, #3, the 1 in 25 variant. Again, I'm digging the storyline. Noah has become a major character, and books like this, when you buy it, you're buying it because you're digging the storyline or you love the art. And now this has become something, when maybe a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, you probably could have paid about $200-300 for this book, maybe less, really. Now it's $1,000 it may be.
A good way I've found to buy the variants a bit, kind of assure that you get them, is to do the pre-sales. They got some on eBay, but you kind of have to be careful because those guys, some of them will ship out like really late, after weeks after the thing's already been released. Or just an easier way, but it takes a little bit more discipline as far as making sure you're researching and everything, is the previews. You can get the previews at the comic book shop, the preview magazine, or there's actually a previews website, and you can see what's coming out 3 months in advance. And then you tell your comic book shop, hey, I want this. It comes out in 3 months. And, with the variants, I guess they'd have to order enough to get that variant. But if your comic book shop does do that and is able to do that, then it's easier to say, hey, this is coming out in 3 months. Let me get the variant of this one. Save me one, when it comes out.
We try to do a decent job, and I'm not going to say we're the best at it. We try to do a good job with our customers when they ask for our opinion. We have never been kind of like pushy owners, like you need to get all this. We usually recommend what we're reading, and then when we
ask them to, like, what characters do you like? If they're new to the hobby, then we tell them, all right, well, look, this is what I'm currently reading, and this is why I'm reading it.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to pick their brain a little bit, because we could honestly just say, hey, pick up all these 20 titles.
Yeah, but
that's not the right way to do it.
We're not the type to want to burn out people. Even in our auctions, you see it. We're always trying to get a feel for the people in the auction, what they're asking for, what they want. I'm mindful, like the last week of the month, first week of the month, we don't want to be in a position to bring out nothing but fire and put them in a position where, like, man, I spent too much and I'm tight on rent money or mortgage money, or because the impulsiveness can get the best of us sometimes,
We all impulse.
Caught up in the moment for sure. It's almost like being at the casino,
Yeah. So I always drop that in there, and the same thing with our customers, man. Like I tell them, like, I don't want you to get burned out by the hobby because I love it, and I'd rather you and me have this conversation for many years instead of me trying to push every single title that's out here. The one thing that we always recommend that me and Manny are really big on is independence. Independence have really been something that me and Manny have really, really, really picked up on, because there's actually really good reads on independence. And then the titles that we're recommending, stuff that we're reading, and I mean, we're so backed up right now, but I know that these continued stories are being read by our customers, and they always come in and say, hey, dude, have you read that? And I'm like, I'm three issues behind, man. Dude, it's going hard still, So, the customers and Michael and them, they also help us out, because I mean, we're pressed for time too, man. Most of the time, I think Manny does a lot more reading than I can at certain points, but that's how we look at it. And again, the collecting variants and stuff like that, you want to catch them in the beginning. I've always told people, catch the A cover, the B cover, if you're getting that. If you know it's going to be a first appearance, you can't go bad if you're going to pick up a first appearance. Obviously the 1 in 25s, the 1 in 50s, 1 in 100s, they get pretty pricey. I think Hawaiian Punch mentioned something about that earlier. So I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go get that 1 in 100. But if you do find a good deal and you like that character or that run, then there's nothing wrong with budgeting around that.
Yeah,
you just don't want to get it to where you're at a point now that it gets hot. Everybody's putting it on Instagram. Everybody's putting it on auctions and stuff like that.
It's too late by then. It's too late to get it by then. I mean, at a reasonable price. You know what I mean? Because it's already caught fire. The ship is sailed.
But and my dad would always say this. Early bird gets a worm. So if you do your due diligence, you grab it, you do your homework, you come in early and you get it. People cannot get mad because you were on top of your research or whatever you were doing to acquire that stuff. So when people want that and there's a demand to it, and you see these guys selling these books at these outrageous prices, and people are buying these books, I tell people, you can't get mad, man, because you had the same opportunity that person had. You had it. You just didn't get it at the time, And someone was saying something about Punchline. I think Albert, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, like Batman '89 and stuff like that. I mean, but you know what? Some of these, and then you do kind of fall into it could fall into the trap where these characters are hot, and then they just dip.
That's funny. I've never actually heard that. The second rat gets the cheese.
Sometimes, I guess. So you do have some new characters popping up, and some people feel like maybe those characters won't have a long lifespan. Like in general, like will they be bankable and stuff like that? And for the most part, Punchline, she's still kind of holding her weight. She's still a
great spec character as far as I'm concerned, because that came about organically. That's strictly from the pages of the comic book. There's no movie behind that, TV show or anything. It's just strictly from the pages of the comic book.
Exactly.
Well, they have to introduce new characters. I've always told people this. I'm like, look, I'm not saying Spider-Man is going to be around for the next 1,000 years. Hopefully comic books can outlast the end of times. Can be there at the end of times. But, for the next 100, 200, 300 years, our kids are growing up with different Spider-Man characters. Manny's kids, they love Miles Morales. So to them, it's that character. It's Spider-Gwen, So you have to believe that it just creates more opportunities for these guys to not only, continue the mantle of these other greats that create these characters, but to also make up their own remake versions of them or new characters that other people can fall in love with, because that's what's great about it is that, as generations start moving forward, they're going to have different Spider-Man, they're going to have different Captain Americas and stuff like that. And obviously it goes into like the race kind of things. And you got Miles Morales, he's Hispanic and he's half black. So that's cool for Latino and for African American to see a hero of that culture. It's great because you don't really see that much. We're used to seeing these characters from just a regular version of a certain type of race. So when you start mixing it up, it gets other people to like these characters differently.
Yeah, and it just makes sense, man. They have to introduce new characters, like he said, because we're not going to be young forever. And
same with the characters. You can't have Spider-Man, Superman, Peter Parker, Clark Kent forever and ever and ever and ever. They keep coming back to life, coming back to life. I mean, what the hell is that? I mean, I'm not for. I don't like the reboots, at the yin yang, but I do like the passing of the torch, to up and coming people characters that'll take on the mantle of the character that is standing the test of time. Batman.
That's what we're
let his son take over.
That's what
Spider-Man. Let it be Miles. No more Peter Parker. Just let it be strictly. Don't even call him Miles Morales anymore. Just call him Spider-Man. You know.
And that's kind of what we're doing too. We're trying to pass on the torch to our kids. Hopefully, they fall in love with the hobby like we did. Kind of like you're saying. Eventually, some of these characters are gonna have to pass on the torch, and it makes sense. A new generation steps up, and hopefully they can carry this hobby to the next generation.
Absolutely.
So it's just part of the process, man. And that's what we say. Some of these characters, if you buy what you like, and you're buying books that you really can get behind on, in the long term, like I said, you won't feel like, damn, I just got shafted,
Leave Uncle Ben alone.
Yeah.
They killed him off so many damn times.
No, I mean, look, the collecting part of for us is, for me, Manny is kind of like, and not related to basketball. Me and Manny are in a position where we got to see really, we're considered a lot of great players in basketball, which is Michael Jordan, the tail end of Michael Jordan. Our Michael Jordan was probably Kobe Bryant, and some people don't like Kobe Bryant. And then we're young enough to see LeBron James, and then probably whoever comes after that, So you even see it in sports, you see this in sports, you see this in everything. There's always someone taking over the mantle. So that's the cool thing about this in comic books, is that it gives other people opportunity, but you can always go reference back, like, well, the first one, the greatest was, Peter Parker, Spider-Man,
the original, the OG.
And as time moves forward, the kids, 20, 30 years from now, maybe not in that short span, but maybe in the next 50 years from now, they're not going to see it like that. They're going to be like, no, man, my Spider-Man is this Spider-Man.
It's Miles Morales,
yeah. So, and that's what's cool about it, because then you'll have the older generation remembering their local hero to the new generation, and it just brings up better conversations, because they can say, well, did you know that the original Spider-Man got his powers this way, and whatever the case is, if it changed the story, because Miles Morales got it kind of the same way, the same spider, but if later on, they have a kid and is just born, I think it did, right, in the new Spider-Man,
as a thing, they bring up so many different kind of characters. Sometimes, they do force some characters, and that's why some of them don't pan out. But if they do it the right way, then typically, these characters have staying power. Like you said, with Punchline is a good example. It just popped up in the storyline and has been able to kind of maintain its own
some funny stuff,
some aura. I would probably have a hard time to kill off Peter Parker, man. But then again, it's just if you ask anybody,
he retired from comic books.
If you ask anybody like about basketball, who's the greatest of all time, I think it's Michael Jordan. But a lot of people, are going to say, maybe Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. A lot of people right now say LeBron James. And that creates that good argument. But within a good argument, sometimes it's always good for the culture, and then even for the community, because if we all thought the same, then there would never be no change. They could have kept these books exactly the same for so damn long, and eventually you would have got burned out. So it is good that they introduce new changes to it.
So we're gonna answer
like sports or even like music. You get into one genre of music. Well, it has its roots somewhere, and then the more you love that music, the more you want to find out about it, where it came from, and then you start discovering all this older stuff that it came from and everything like that. It's kind of same thing with the comic books and the characters too. These the younger generation can get their Miles Morales, so to speak, and get into that character, and then they start seeking out well what was his origins and how did he come about, and hey, here's Peter Parker, and here's. It just kind of dovetails into other aspects of collecting and seeking things out to collect.
And that's a good point, because what it does do is it helps you appreciate the history behind it. Because it's like the music. You start listening to some kind of genre of music, and then you start kind of going back in past and start realizing some of that old music that you used to think was crap or whatever. It's actually damn good. Like
you even had no idea.
The 80s or 70s is some damn good music. So it makes you appreciate a lot of the history. So Billy Bourne said, he had a question. He goes, my question is the comic world ready for a different color heroes, and will they be accepted? Are they ready are more ready for the change? I honestly believe that I think people are ready for it, because I think for the most part, I would say that there's a loud minority that probably doesn't want change, and that's why they're called a loud minority, because they're gonna scream and holler that they don't want change. But there's a new culture, there's a whole new mindset going around that honestly, we do want to see, characters of different color. We do want to see Hispanics out there. We want to see, black characters. We want to see female characters and stuff like that. I think times have changed where we're not just, there's not just that one straight down the line that it has to be this way and this is the way it's always going to be. No, I mean, I think most of us have an open mind for the most part.
I mean, change is hard to accept for a lot of people, man. And I'll use this with working out. In order to change your body and to tone it, or if you're going for like a muscular tone look, the change is hard to accept. Why? Because you're not used to the effort or sacrifice that has to go behind that, or kind of the pattern to get there. So with changing anything, it's always going to be hard to accept, because for whatever reason, people are always going to have an opinion of, well, you should do this, you should do that, this should have happened this way and this and this. And eventually when people start seeing results in working out, or even in the storyline, when you start seeing like this character is Latino and he's doing different things, people start realizing like, okay, it's little by little they're inching to the acceptance of the change. But it takes time, man. Everything is not sugar coated, so with life and everything, the change is always going to take a little bit of time to accept. But eventually, as more people catch on and catch wind of it, they will begin accepting the change. It's just human nature, man. Some people just don't like change in general, but eventually you just have to.
You have to adapt to the times, man, honestly. And then
there's always been ethnic characters throughout comic book history. I mean, you can go back and you've had tons of them, and even women, superheroes, of course, have been there, ever since the beginning. It just for whatever reason, I mean, you can speculate on the reasons, but some of those characters, the majority of them, they just never really took off like your major characters, like your Batmans and your Spider-Mans or whatever. I think that may be at least a small part of the reason why they were never really those types of characters never really got pushed to the forefront, and a lot put behind those types of characters in the past. And I would certainly hate to think that if there is any kind of push for any ethnic characters or whatever nowadays, that there's no agenda behind it. I mean, it's just an organic thing. That'd be the best way to do it, because I mean, you can have black, blue, brown, red characters all day long, but if they suck, if their stories suck and the art sucks, then it's just what's the point? I mean, the best characters are the more well-rounded characters, that have some substance to them, no matter what color they are, where they come from.
Exactly. Sometimes when they just throw a character up just to kind of create just a new character with no effort, and you're going to have a bad result. But when you kind of put a little bit of some love into it, and you kind of put some backstory in, and you really put some effort into it, you're going to get you should get a pretty good result.
Like Philly Born saying, he's reading the Miles Morales. He's really enjoying it. I must admit, for the moment, I'm falling underneath the flipping the Miles Morales right now. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting a pretty good stack of Miles Morales. I've read Ultimate Fallout 4, and I want to get into the rest of the story. So I'm trying to correct my ways there, so to speak. But
Well, look,
yeah,
I mean,
that's fantastic that he's actually getting into the story, and it's actually a really good story.
no, and you see, with me, what I was doing is, and I do this and again, I'm not saying you should do it this way, but for myself, I usually buy 2 copies of something I do like. And Miles Morales is something I've been behind since day one, so I usually buy 2 copies. So, I guess when these auctions do happen and stuff like that, I kind of ended up getting, by dumb luck, ended up having 2 copies, and if I can unload one, and if there's someone that really wants that book, they're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it just works out that way. But I've been behind that Miles Morales for a good minute because, again, I'm trying to get my kids into this hobby, and
Sure.
and with the Spider-Gwen for my daughter, with Miles Morales for my son, and they're behind it. So I sit there, and if I can, we read the books together, and that's why I buy 2 copies. Sometimes one becomes a reader's copy. So
yeah, that's great.
I know there's some questions on here, man. Let's try to get to the questions because I know we're gonna kind of roll into the auction time, and then we can show off the books again because when people are coming in, they're not seeing your Monster Grail.
He did buy this from us last Saturday, guys.
This is the gentleman that bought the Avengers.
Let me see if I can make him I'm going to remove myself for a quick minute. He did buy the Avengers 3.0.
Look at that. Look at that.
And that's what you want to see.
Avengers #1, baby. Look at it. You got some chunks taken out and everything, And there's a little cruddy along the spine over here and everything. Yeah. But I don't care, man. This is Avengers #1, dude.
Yeah,
this is all-time comic book grail here. I mean, these are the ones that you dream about, And I've got it right here in my hands, man. This is awesome.
So that's what we want to see. Anytime that you buy a book, you want to see that kind of excitement, that kind of like love for it. Again, if we can't shoot for a 9.0, 8.0, it's just, if it's out of our price range, it is. But and then Chino worked out a deal with him. They've been talking for a few weeks apparently, and he had.
I saw it early on his post. I think I was real early to hit him up on this one.
And we're gonna go full screen real quick. And again, for you guys that just jumped in, we go between the community. A nice 3.5 excellent #1, and you guys know this book has a lot of first appearances. It's a damn good book. Yeah. To us, it's a beautiful book. We love this damn book.
Man, I'm really happy you guys like it, man. I really am.
It worked out for both parties.
It worked out for both parties, man. Again, like we've always talked about. There's one that we're trying to complete the whole grow list one round, and then we have been acquiring like the second round of books. So this goes to the second round of the X-Men. So we now are part owners of 2, but we always collect one to complete either me or Manny's run, and then Manny's run, and then obviously start working on kids if we get to that point. But I mean. Yeah. It's expensive, man. These are not cheap, man. So
exactly.
So we were fortunate enough that through YouTube we're able to meet each other.
Yep.
He's bought through us, and we've caught some of the auction where he's been in other platforms, and it was just great, man. It was great that it worked out, and I was happy that he saw something in our auction that he liked. And vice versa, there was a book that he put up, and he put it up in multiple auctions. And again,
it just takes the right time and the right buyer. Sometimes, sometimes we run some books and people pass on them. It is what it is. And then a few weeks later, we run that book again. Let's run it one more time. And that at that time, the right eyes are on the YouTube, and they want that book. So. Like the excitement.
Don't hold back anybody. If you got a book you're trying to sell, I mean, you gotta put it out there. I mean, you can't just. I mean, I kind of feel like it goes without saying, but just in case, I mean, you can't expect people to come beating your door down. You have to put it out there, and you'll get all the no's, all day long. But you just keep plugging away, and you're gonna find the person that wants that comic book.
And
it's
the
like
question,
the flip side,
Hey, good question.
Avengers up. I mean, maybe you were expecting it to go that night, maybe you weren't, but it was the right time for me.
Exactly, and I brought it out there. I said, you know what? Let's try this book. Maybe there'll be someone out there that really, really likes this book, really wants this book, and it just worked out. I mean, we did get some. We actually got hit up quite a bit. but you came at us with the
Well,
right price.
we had something already going, so it just made sense. It just made sense
at the end of the day, you want to get the most out of your book too.
Yeah, it just made sense that your offer came in because you knew the book and you were chasing the book. It was the better offer, and we already had something going with X-Men, so it kind of just worked out because you didn't know that I was going to sell that book up until that night because we put it up that night.
It was a mystery for us, really.
And the only reason we did it is because you have to watch other videos coming in the future, but there's always stuff that we're doing when you see these books because
I'll say right now, we've talked about it. Whenever we have, that's why we throw up a lot of books on the auction, and when we get these kind of grails and stuff like that, if we're throwing them up, it's because we have you said yesterday we can acquire some of these grails and stuff like that.
Well,
we'll be able to bring them to the auction and offer them, even if it doesn't sell. But somebody will put their eyes on it and be like, well, let me reach out to them and see what I can work out with them.
Well, going back to that, so the Matt's in here talking about the hunt for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one continued. So just so you guys know, man, the only two that we're missing right now is Hulk 1, and really the Turtles is not Silver Age, but we put it up there because it's such an expensive book that
we grew up watching that. We grew up watching Ninja Turtles.
We kind of categorize that one as part of the Silver Age grails. Even though it's not a Silver Age book because it's just so rare.
It's up there.
You don't even see that book in cons sometimes. That's how hard it is to find it. And
you see a lot of third prints and second prints.
And that's a book. That's another book that we were chasing. So after we complete those two, we'll complete the run. And then again, as we acquire these other books, so Matt, make sure that we get that book. We're able to get these books and then start putting them out to the community.
He hit me up last night. And let me go back real quick. Alberto had asked a really good question. I guess I can ask you guys. He asked if these kind of books, if we keep them at home and do we display them at home? And for us, we don't. We lock them up in a vault. So this we'll have it here for this weekend, and then it's going to be put up in a vault, and that it is what it is.
Yeah, we will take it to our storage unit, and we have a vault, and we'll put them all. We'll lock them up, man.
I don't know what you do, Mr. Unknown Comments. Do you keep your? I mean, if you don't want to answer, it's no big deal. Do you display your
They're going to be asking for your address.
Yeah,
No, they're definitely kept at an undisclosed location. Yes.
Yeah, you have to, man. Once we start getting these expensive books, man, I don't recommend a lot of people. Like, it's cool to have them. Like, I mean, we'll have it for a few days until we can get back to putting it up. Well, we don't keep them, man. So a lot of our big books are put up, man, and so, sometimes not even the big books, minor grails and stuff like that, we forget about, and then we'll go and drop off some stuff, and we'll start looking through our collection.
Oh, crap! Why the hell did I even buy that book again? I already had it. It happens. You buy so many books sometimes you forget what you have. So there's good image books.
And speaking of forgetting, I think we were talking about this before, Chino, is that, don't get me wrong, man. Like I said at the very beginning, I preface everything up until now by saying I go after everything, whatever strikes my fancy, okay? Yeah. But there's still that core few titles or collections or runs or whatever, however you want to put it, that I am focusing on getting ultimately and having those. Instead of just everything, everything under the sun. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, to a point, okay? There's nothing wrong with hoarding comic books, okay? If you got a problem, you got a problem. But there's nothing wrong with hoarding comic books. But if you're thinking about having comic books like this, like this, there we go, like that. You can't forget about them, but you can't forget about them and get caught up on chasing all your smaller comic books and everything, because you're just going to get wrapped up in chasing these all day long. Then you're going to be, pining for this comic book and just looking at all the listings on eBay and saying to yourself, you'll never be able to afford it. That's because you're too busy chasing all these other books.
You got to make a list, man. You got to make a list.
Too damn long.
To try to stick to the list, and we talk about it. Me and Manny, we are our worst enemy sometimes, man. But again, it goes back to, like I tell everyone, it just depends on your financial, kind of your financial responsibilities, which you allocate to buy these books, structure, a sacrifice to acquire these books. But yes, if you are buying all these little other filler stuff, it can delay the process a lot longer because you start adding that up. And you're like, well, if I spend $100 every week, that's $400 a month. and that grill is $4,000. If you really sacrifice that for 10 months, you can buy that grill.
Yeah,
for 10
it
months.
just depends. And like I said, that's why, if you do buy multiples of certain books, and if you are okay with parting with some books, if you end up, selling them, that's another avenue of revenue to get into, be able to buy some of these bigger books. And again, if you don't love certain books and you can part with them, that's another way too. Again, if I wasn't a big fan of let's say X-Men, but I'm a big Spider-Man fan, it's easier for me to sell an X-Men 1 than to sell like an ASM 1 because
Right.
that's what I like. That's what I love. So, you also have to sometimes sacrifice this.
Yeah. So, is there any other question that we have on there? I think who else had a question?
Let me see if I can work this thing.
They had a good question up here that we probably could answer.
Oh, Pope said it's hard for him to sell anything. I get it, dude. It is hard to sell a lot of things, man.
It was very hard for us too. Trust me, it's very hard to start selling books.
Well, we didn't start selling books till we acquired the shop. So honestly, before that, that's why we have a lot of books, because we're just buying books for the collection, buying books for the first appearances, buying books for our runs and stuff like that. So once we acquired the shop, then basically you have to kind of put your perspective that you have to sell a new comic book day, of course, and you have to have a back wall of some kind of keys.
So I can go back and I can answer some questions. So look, we have this question was.
Well, look, Jaguar said he likes to trade up. Again, that's another option too. Sometimes you can trade a book.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes it could be an even trade. Sometimes it could be like, hey, I got this book. Do you really want it? Yes, that's a book that I really want. Okay, mine's a higher grade. The book that you have is probably lower grade, or whatever it may be, or maybe yours is higher. It doesn't matter. And sometimes, you could do a trade with books and cash. There's a lot of different ways to tackle this hobby. That's the fun part about it, is that there isn't just one way to do it. There's, just for instance, we do the YouTube auctions. There's Instagram, there's eBay, there's comic book shops, there's Facebook groups. There's a whole bunch of different ways to approach this hobby. And that's what makes it so fun, that you're not just limited to, one source and that's it.
All right. So I don't know if we answered this question. It says some people aren't reading Miles. All they're doing is flipping the books, which is obviously the right.
We already talked about that.
Okay, so that one's answered.
Well, look, somebody's asking right now, do you sit and read your full stock of new releases? Yeah, like whenever we had a lot more time, because we are busy with the auctions and busy with our main business. We're hardcore on the House of X, Powers of 10. We're reading Daredevil. I was reading Daredevil. I was really up to date on Venom and stuff like that. I'm probably like 8 or 10 issues behind Venom, but I still have it on my pull list. So
yeah, that's a fantastic practice as far as being a store owner, because people come in there looking for stuff and you can just rattle off, this one's about, using that one, what's going on here, this one's good, this one's bad.
Yeah, we have to read. We have to divide kind of.
Well, I would put in preference like the indies, because that's a harder sell.
Yeah.
So I need to know if it was going to be it was going to be a good read to kind of say like, hey, pick up this book called something's Killing Children, or be like, what is all hype? It's not that good, but it is a good story.
But I do get caught up. Like the way I get caught up, and I hate saying this because you guys are gonna laugh, is the time I do spend on YouTube, just because I need to maximize my time, I'll go back and I'll catch a recap of what's happening in the stories through someone.
Some people like doing that too.
And I'll do that, and then I'll go back and read them, because I still want to know where the story is going to or leading into. If I missed a few books, and it's hard, man. For us, it's very hard to find the time to do a lot of things, man. Especially with having a family, multiple businesses, owning the shop, trying to do YouTube, the auctions. So even being up at 5 a.m. every day, from 5 till I sleep at midnight every day. I find time to relax my mind by doing other things, which is either sometimes reading books, or playing video games, or watching a movie and stuff like that. Because if I'm just going 100 miles an hour all the time, I'm gonna get burned out. And in order for me to find something to clear my mind, is I reference comic books, video games, movies, TV shows. And sometimes when I'm just driving, man, I'll put it on YouTube and I'll read,
Or you listen.
I'll listen to what's going on in the story. And then when I find time, I'll get my pile of books and I'll read it, and I'll get caught up.
So Pope said he's glad he skipped on. I don't know.
Don't forget, reading the comic books is almost a near perfect escape, because it's not like you're watching a movie. You can get wrapped up in a movie, but when you're reading something, there's just something about how it draws you in. It puts you right there, even more so than a movie can. It makes it a little bit more personal, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're going back in time, and you know, I mean, some of us are older. Some people are older than others and stuff. I get it. You know, there wasn't a lot of distraction when we were young. We were just running around the streets and stuff like that. But when you read a comic book, you know, that was kind of like a form to open up your imagination. That's what it is. That's what it was, opening your imagination. And you know, for some of us, we would sit there and draw these characters.
I mean, I dare to say, man, that I even had an idea of like writing some type of comic book in the future, man. Like
it'll be about Wolverine.
No, I'm working towards something, but I use comic books and the ideas that I see there and movies and shows and stuff like that to draw inspiration. And I see where they fail on certain things that I don't like, and then I try to correct it in what I have in mind to one day. Eventually, I might not even bring it up, but it's just an idea of what I want to do. Because I mean, I've always had a crazy imagination, and I feel like when I do read comic books and stuff like that, it just opens it up again. You know, as a kid.
And speaking of that, I wouldn't mind. This is kind of throwing it out there, but I've always wanted to write like a children's book. So that it has nothing to do with comics, but it's just something dealing with writing. You know.
That goes hard right now. So look,
Dr. Manny.
Exactly. You never know. It might do something, man.
So there was another question here. Franco, some banks have safety deposit boxes.
We used to work at a bank.
But I talked about that earlier. The problem with banks is that if something happens with your safety deposit box or something at the bank, they are not liable to pay for that item because they never know what you're putting in there.
They're not supposed to know what you put in there. So
the thing about that is going into insurance-wise, it's hard for you to go back and say, hey, I had that in the safe deposit box. If it's just there was a massive flood or massive fire, there's no way to prove that. You can have the picture, but they can say, well, you just took a picture of that.
Yep.
There's no way to prove that. So I always tell people the bank thing is always people may not be aware of that. That's probably something that I'm sharing with you guys.
Yeah, he's saying you're right.
Is that, you know, if you keep it there, man, you're probably not going to have that stuff. The best way to do it is make sure that when you do have insurance, take pictures of it, make sure that it's there, document it, get you a separate insurance for your assets. Yep. That's when they become assets, and be smart about doing it the right way, because at banks, there's no way that you can overcome that. If something happens there, you know, there's no way to prove it. You know, there's no way to prove it. That's what I tell you. Don't keep money in safe deposit.
You're not supposed to anyway.
Because
like the banks are closed right now anyway, you know.
Yeah, you can't even go. Yeah, you can't even get to the bank. So it does become even storage units, man. Here in Houston, you have to set up an appointment, man, to even get to them.
So my did the same thing. So again, some of you guys are joining us right now. You should go rewatch this video because there's some really cool information that we shared, and then we also shared some awesome girls that we were able to acquire from each other. Again, you know, Avengers that we showed off in the last auction, you know, we said it sold, and sure enough, you know, it's not in our possession anymore. We don't have it. This isn't no camera magic, nothing like that.
You know what I did? I actually
poof. Yeah, exactly. So
Manny snapped his Thanos fingers, man, and he made it appear over there. And again, we didn't get too much onto the spec talk this time.
Well, I did kind of, you know, if you want to pick up, you know, one, I say
let's do a recap there real quick to show some of the books. You know,
it's not really showing off the books. It's mostly talking about, like, you know, I like to pick up the antenna variants when it shows off, like when it's like like, you know, like a first appearance of a character, you know, like the 125 for Thor #5 first appearance right there. You know, 125 Captain Marvel #8, you know, Star's first appearance, stuff like that. You know, and then like this one, you know, this became a major banger now that, you know, first appearance of, you know, the Venom 125 variant. So, you know, these are a way to spec.
And like going back to someone's question is like this book, and to answer someone's gonna ask, this is something that we'll probably keep around. This is something that goes into our vault.
Yeah.
Because to this is the price can go down on this book. So it's not like a crazy expensive book. It is in a sense.
It's expensive right now, yeah.
It is, but I never look at it like, well, that's gonna be like a big time X-Men price range, you know. It might get there.
Yeah, keep that flat.
But
so it probably hasn't seen its bottom yet. The floor.
Well, yeah. we don't know where it's gonna go from here, but I know it's a real hot book. And again, I just the appearance of a villain that I can totally get behind on, and I'm digging the Venom run. So, you know, it was a logical purchase for me to, you know, buy that. Now, you know, is it a cheap book? No, it wasn't a cheap book. But when I bought it, I love it. So again, I don't feel like I overpaid. Some people will probably say like, oh, he that was a dumb purchase. But then again, there's a lot of stuff that we all do in our personal lives that I'm pretty sure we all think like this doesn't make any sense. But to us, this comic book stuff, it makes sense to us.
That's what I'm saying. You can never correct someone in collecting. As much as you try to do and you try to give them your opinion on it, that's what it just becomes, man. Because at the end of the day, they're going to collect the way they want to. Like I told Andrew the other day, he keeps chasing that 1 in 25 and we joke about it, but we don't tell people like, hey, don't buy that book. If you want to buy that book and spend, an absurd amount, then it makes you happy, then you go for it. I can't tell you, well, I would have picked up two Silver Age books. Who will give you my opinion on it? But again, you have to do what.
And that's the fun part. The fun part is sharing opinions. And right here, Hawaiian Punch. With this, we're going to be close to wrapping it up because we have an auction coming up, guys. Hawaiian Punch said that while other people like to draw characters, which is awesome, he was trained to be a real superhero. Except for me and Chino,
we were trying to be the Blob. Yeah, he
super villain, the Blob. So he's basically making fun of us, saying that we lost some games, and it happens.
I didn't lose no games.
That Corona hit us, and I wasn't able to work out for like 3 weeks. It happens, man.
I was able to work out. I had no issues with it. But it was a great time having you here, Mr. Arnold. I'm glad that you were able to get that book safe and sound.
And I'm glad that this is going to be our first guest at our show.
Yeah, this
kind of show.
You'll be our first guest. So the name of the name of the live show will be Worlds Collide. And the reason I named it that, like I was telling Manny, is because you created your own world in YouTube. We create our own world on YouTube. And when people come in here, it's two different worlds that may sometimes align in certain topics or have certain opinions on things that might be similar. But there always be differences. So it's two worlds colliding and getting perspectives of
oh man, that sounds like a great show, man. I'd love to see you guys get somebody on there, that don't quite agree. I mean, that make for a good show.
Yeah, we'll keep it civil, of course.
Sure, absolutely. But we'll just keep bringing up new topics, and there's always going to be that topic of why I like CGC and CBCS, and we can come in here and talk about that, or PGX, or I like variants over 8 covers, or I like Silver Age over Bronze Age,
or I like raw books, and he likes slabs. I don't really care for signatures, and he loves signatures. It's just so many
Superman or Sentry.
Exactly.
But like I said, I'll be at your auction. Just wondering, we do have some slabs coming up, guys.
We'll have some buy.
We have a lot of stuff. So leading into our auction, obviously one of these days, I hope Mr. Arnold can come out here too on a Saturday.
Oh yeah,
be part of the key squad, the key unit. And all you guys purchasing keys, man, you might not understand. You are essentially part of the key unit because you're buying keys, man. So you got to think of yourself as part of the squad, man. And keys, one thing that I always tell people, man, you can't really go wrong with keys. You can sometimes, but really not. And it's great, man.
Andrew's part of it. I know he has some major keys. I know Pope has some major keys too. So and Hawaiian Punch, he has a few decent books.
No, Hawaiian Punch has nothing but lot.
Service, yeah, he's got to have some keys.
So leading to that, Mr. Arnold, this is always open. The platform's always open. Obviously, we'll probably have more people in the panel or more stuff coming in here. It's great kind of talking to you over the last few days. You have my number. That's the other good thing about it is that now we create a network between all of us and talk and
there's open dialogue.
Yeah, there's open dialogue, and we can talk about other things outside of just what we're collecting, or if you see something that I like, or vice versa, we can help.
Oh yeah, I love doing that.
That's networking.
Yeah, that's what we're all about, guys. So with that, on our end, we're gonna start saying our goodbyes. Mr. Arnold, anything you want to say? Let's plug your channel.
Mr. Arnold Comics, guys, my channel. It's been a while, but I do mainly comic book hauls, and about every once a week or so, I'll do an auction on Thursday nights around 7:30 p.m. Central Time, or you might be able to find me on somebody else's auction here and there. Like I think here in a little bit, I'm actually running late for BLC's auction, so.
Okay, we got to team up with the other guys, man. But it was great just talking, comics, man. And again,
man, I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. And you guys are good guys. It was really nice meeting with you and being able to talk with you and get to know you guys a little bit better.
Yeah, thank you, man. Same with us, man. And again, YouTube has been great to us, and I'm really happy, man. That book came on my birthday, and it was just I couldn't contain. I told Manny, I'm like, it was just like a birthday gift that came in, and I opened it up.
Yeah,
and I said on the picture, and Manny came like right after that, man. Like he lived down the street.
Awesome.
So he came right after that, and he looked at the book, and it was like, we're like kids, bro, like Christmas, you know. Like even though, I mean, like I said, we do have another one, you know, just knowing that we're
it's just
we're
you accomplished the goal. That's the main
yeah.
thing. When you check something off the list, you just feel great about it. And that's what it is.
Yeah, man. It's hard to take my eyes off of this comic book sometimes. I'll just sit there and look at it for a little while. I'm like, my God, it's so
I'm
cool.
glad, man. I'm super
glad,
glad.
man. I'm glad. And again, thank you again,
everybody
man.
in the chat, thank you for hanging out with us. But we are going to do an auction, so I know you guys are probably anxious for that. We have some really good guys coming on tonight.
Don't forget to open multiple tabs, fellas. Open multiple tabs.
Yeah, you have to, man. You have to. I'm there lurking sometimes, but
yeah.
You know,
big shout out to Big Lion Cat, man. So I know he has an auction tonight. So you guys, you know, open tabs because you know they might have something we don't, or vice versa. We might have something that you know that they're not showing up at that time. And you see it.
You see it on auction. You see numbers going up and down, up and down, up and down all the time, man. You know, that's what's great about it. I tell people when there's multiple auctions going on, it makes it like you're at the mall. You know that this store and that store and that store, and they're all open, and I can go to different stores and pick out what I like.
Exactly.
With that, everybody, y'all have a good night because he has to do an auction. We have to do an auction, and this was stupid fun. So you guys have a great night. Join us again for the auction.
We'll be back like in 15 minutes.
Later.